One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses Radio Show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arvo.
And Merle, thank you for joining me. And I think we should tell our listening audience that you and I are both recording this radio broadcast remotely. You're in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I am. I'm at a breed association convention, specifically the Palomino Breed Association convention. Last week was the Pinto Horse Association convention. It's the kind of time of year there's a lot of conventions going on.
You know, that gets kind of exciting. Almost like we're going to walk through a lot of different breeds and a lot of professionals coming on the Better Horses Radio Show this week. As a matter of fact, in this episode, we have Christy Lee Smith with Christy's Quarter Horses, and she's from Pennsylvania. She's an AQHA professional horseman, and she's going to talk all about her lessons, her training program, and everything she's doing with ranch riding.
And you'll want to stay tuned because our second guest is one you won't want to miss. It's Carson James. Known for his no-nonsense approach to horsemanship, Carson has helped riders everywhere build better partnerships with their horses. Whether it's problem-solving, fine-tuning communication, or just getting back to the basics, he's got a wealth of knowledge to share.
You know, we talked to Carson before, and I got to tell you, his enthusiasm is what makes him a great trainer. And we're going to wrap it up as we talk to Callie Kohler. And she's with the veterinarian services of KF Equine, and she's been improving the quality of life and performance for chiropractic care. And you know what, Merle, she also does corrective shoeing, and she also has a special attention to lameness evaluations and rehabilitation. But before we get all that started, we're going to get it rolling with all our Better Cattle team with our very own Mark Albold. Mark?
Well, Ed, welcome to March. How about that? We made it through, well, we hope we have anyway, the last of Old Man Winter, but you and I know, growing up in the Midwest, many years, winter weather continues well past that first day of spring here, March 20th, 21st. Well, maybe this is agriculture's version of March Madness, that time of year. Well, you know, we start today looking at this corn market, talking to our producers here, tuning in, whether you placed or you bought cattle because you wanted to or because you had to fulfill an obligation. You've done so at not only, as you know, high prices, the highs of the feeder cattle market, but seemingly a time when beef and fat cattle demand seems to be softening. And since it's the lighter weight animals that are in such demand, feedstuffs will be a necessity. Once they start on backgrounding or on a full feed program, then corn obviously becomes really critical. We want to watch that here and talk a little bit about it. Corn has declined since their highs around the 19th, 20th of February. Now, several analysts recommend that cattle feeders own some July corn call options. Now, you might, again, this is not our solicitation or, again, it's just an observation, but certainly contact your own analyst or broker that you're working with. The recommendation is not necessarily due to a belief that corn is going to rally, but there are multiple drought aspects ahead of us. Again, December corn is lowest in about a month here, lows near $4.50 early week. Again, visit with your broker about a strategy into summer. Drought map still shows severe drought. Parts of Kansas, really Nebraska, pretty well covered. Northwest Iowa, southern Minnesota as well. That's a large territory. Plus excessive rain in the eastern Corn Belt for March, April, and May. And that's according to NOAA and their 3-month weather, temperature, and precipitation outlook that they released here last week. Again, the bottom line that the market is going to get nervous, the corn market, we think, once we get to March 20th and that first day of spring. That's pretty much historically, you can count on that, it's going to be too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry when it comes time to put this crop in the ground. So, again, keep that in mind. especially those of you who, again, you have high-priced feeder cattle that you probably recently just purchased, and looking at corn that could rally from here for the reasons we mentioned, weather, number one. And looking at futures, before we close things out here, April live cattle, we think, should find support below the 192 level from here. June, 186, 186 and a half, a number that we're watching for support there. And looking at feeder cattle, April feeders, you could really make a case that 265 back in early February could be revisited from here with the chart action that we're seeing. Again, and people that we visit with, not our recommendation, but they're suggesting that there's a gap down there, and it might go all the way down to 265, so keep that in mind. Spring is coming, and one day closer each day. Ed, that's going to do it for us, and as always, above all this, we wish everyone a profitable week ahead.
And thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. Hey, Merle, let's get this started with Better Horses Radio Show. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hey, it's Alex Gold from Max Motors in Belton with their huge year-end heavy-duty sale. Every new 2024 Ram 2500 in stock is 20% off MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee up to $13,000 off MSRP. Stock number S240367. Must finance with dealer lender. Offer expires 1/2/25. And if you're looking for the max trade-in values in the Midwest, it's Max Motors, just a short drive to Belton. Max Motors, the easiest place to buy a car, maxmotors.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And Merle's with us, coming up from Tulsa, Oklahoma, as he specializes in certain breeds at the Palomino Horse Association. But you know what? We got the Pinto World Championship, and this is our sponsorship for this segment. And it's a special championship coming out June 7th through June 21st. Merle, I know this is one of your loves coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And it's one of my favorites. And if you haven't seen the schedule they just released, I'm telling you, there is a class for everybody. Go through that, sign your mom, your grandpa, your niece, your nephew, bring the whole family and come on down.
You know, you can check it out at pinto.org. And as I promised, Christy Lee Smith at Christie's Quarter Horses. She's from Pennsylvania, and she's an AQHA professional horseman. She's a trainer. She's got lessons, and she's got a showing sale halter horse, and also she goes into ranch riding. And I'd like to welcome Christy Lee Smith. Christy, welcome to Better Horses.
Thank you for having me.
So you're also currently a director of the World Conformation Horse Association, and you've also been a judge, an open judge for 4-H shows, and you're currently at a show right now. Do you want to tell us where your location is and what show you're at?
Yes, I'm at the Level 1 East Championship for the American Quarter Horse Association at the World Equestrian Center in Wilmington, Ohio. And AQHA has started, this event has been super popular the last few years. We have Level 1 novice exhibitors who are starting out, showing the great venue for them to showcase their abilities and really get out there at the championship level.
And that's really what I want to dive in on. And we're talking about amateurs here. So as an amateur coming into these show rings, what's the first thing you like to teach, or what's the first common knowledge that they have, or one of the top mistakes everybody makes that you'd like to point out?
So a lot of amateurs get nervous, and this is also for youth exhibitors too, that are novice. And, when you have kids or amateurs first coming into the show world, they'll get nervous and make kind of rookie mistakes. We try to go to enough shows before coming to this level to get them really acclimated to the show arena, and so that they have a good time. And it's not something that they're worried or nervous about. I think it's really important that people enjoy what they're doing. And that's my job, is to prepare them for this and for them to really be ready for a show like this.
Now, let's talk into the type of discipline we're into. You're into ranch riding, and that seems to be growing. We talk about this on the show all the time. Are you seeing that in Pennsylvania also?
Yes, the fastest growing AQHA discipline. I have shown quarter horses for over 30 years now, and started, mostly with halter and Western Pleasure and Hunter Under Saddle, and it all came up as a youth exhibitor through the all-around events. And in 2012, AQHA introduced ranch riding. I just went and watched it when I was at the World Show the first year they had it, and just thought it was really a neat way to display the versatility of the quarter horse. And I went home and started working on a horse I had for it, and started showing in it the next year, and that's been 10 years ago. Now my barn kind of went from, more of a halter all-around base to mostly ranch riding horses. They also compete in the ranch rail and the ranch trail. Most of the horses do all three events.
We're seeing that discipline growing everywhere. Have you ever, now obviously the quarter horse is the gold standard for ranch riding. Have you seen other breeds try to enter into this category?
Yeah, so I have a couple horses in the barn that are registered Appaloosas, and I also have a few registered paint horses that are showing in ranch riding and ranch events. I think the stock horse breeds in general, really excel at ranch riding. But at one of my last clinics, I actually had a standardbred that did pretty well with it. And once in a while you do see, different breeds in my clinic that can, enjoy the ranch events as well.
I have watched somebody try to get a thoroughbred through this, and it was interesting. Mm-hmm. Actually did pretty well. I will honestly say that. The rider was really good at it. So let's take it from a judging perspective. When you're looking at the judging perspective, what do you look for in the ranch riding category that really kind of makes everybody stand out?
I mean, we're looking for a horse that's really well trained. I mean, the horse should be relaxed, quiet, soft, cadence at all gaits. The ideal horse should move with forward movement and show an obvious lengthening of stride at their extended gait. We're looking for a horse that just has good overall manners, it's very responsive and timely in their transitions. I personally, coming from, more of a pleasure horse background, movement is really important for me. It's really smooth to ride. Also look for a horse that's very happy, a horse should look like they want to be there, like they're enjoying their job, a horse that is really good with their ears, very important in the ranch riding. We like to see a horse that, looks happy and looks like something you would want to ride all day.
And now you're providing videos and you're providing training. Can you take time out? And for our listeners, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Christy's Quarter Horses, located in Pennsylvania. She's an AQHA professional horseman, and she trains, and she gives lessons. She also has a boarding barn. And Christy, if you could give us a perspective of how you train and what you can tell everybody as far as getting into this industry, what would be the best points you'd like to bring out?
So we look for a horse that's really broke. Again, we're looking for a horse that's very responsive. So the horse needs to be a broke horse. The horse needs to be soft in the bridle. Looking for a horse with a really nice, even top line. You want the horse to be very responsive to your body, and very responsive to cues in your transitions. So when I train, we do a lot of that. a lot of just transitioning from gait to gait and working on it being smooth. We also work on the maneuvers, which would be, in ranch riding, you have to do spins, but the spins are not like reining where they're, a build of spins. In ranch riding, the first spin is your best spin. So most of the time you only do a spin of a 360 or a turn and a half is the most you do in ranch riding. So I spend a lot of time training the horses to, be very quick off the get-go in finding their best spin. The first spin, like I said, needs to be your best spin because that's the one you're going to be showing to the judge. We also do a lot of log work, walking, trotting, loping logs, side passing logs. And then again, most of these horses also do the ranch trail. So they need to work the gait. They need to drag the log and be able to carry things from one point to another, like a slicker or a bucket, that kind of a thing, teaching horses to back through things, all that kind of things. It just makes a nice overall horse.
So, Christy, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a contact information?
The best way actually is to call me. I'm a little old-fashioned in the sense that, I do have a social media presence that Christy's Quarter Horses is pretty active on both social media, Instagram and Facebook. I have a marketing manager who manages that for me. She does a wonderful job with all of the videos. Her name is Allie Hubble. She's an amazing photographer and videographer. And also, other than that, there is an email and a phone number on there that's provided would be the best way to contact me. If you're interested in getting into ranch riding, we have a lot of clinics, mostly in the Northeast, that would, be a great way to, I've had a lot of people introduce themselves that way. And then if they like it, a lot of them have come to me through the training process and kind of moved on from there. I've had actually one of my clients won the Palomino World last year, came right out of one of my clinics, came to my clinic and wanted to see something she wanted to get into. And then, 6 months later, she won 2 classes at the Palomino World Championship. So we get a lot of interest through clinics and find a lot of training tips on social media as well.
Well, Christy, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on board and walking us through that here on Better Horses. And we're talking to Christy Lee Smith at Christy's Quarter Horses, located in Pennsylvania. Check out her Facebook page at Christy's Quarter Horses. Christy, we want to thank you for joining Better Horses. We're going to take a break. I want everyone to stay with us. We got more equine conversations coming your way after we hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio.
Okay, as I promised, I'm excited about this next guest, and he's from Florida. His background is the Vaquero horsemanship, and he has the majority of his career is going to be in cattle ranching, and he's rode a lot of horses every day. I think he's on the horses more than he's actually sleeping in his house. So with that much information, he's got a lot of knowledge of real life experiences in the buckaroo horsemanship. Carson James, thank you for joining us here at Better Horses.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
So Merle and I were talking. You have a great video that you bring out to all these people that want to learn about horsemanship. But as I was telling Merle, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have never quite listened to a podcast like yours before that is so direct into giving you something into your toolkits of what you can do about horses. So with that in mind, what is some of the things that you like to see when we're talking about working with horses and some of the things that you see as the biggest mistake with your clinics that people are making?
Oh, for sure. It seems like more often than not, probably one of the things is maybe just kind of as human nature, human tendency, whatever you might call it, we tend to have trouble seeing the little things that the horse is trying to get us to catch on to and be aware of, because we're just wanting the big things and the big picture so badly. And I think that can kind of blind us in a sense to basically it can hinder our ability to have empathy for the horse and feel what he's feeling and really allow us to get inside of his head to be able to understand what we need to do to help that specific horse. So the one thing we talk about at clinics a lot is we try to help people understand how much is going on even at a walk, and how there's probably 500 things that are missing in a horse even at a walk or a standstill, that if you could get those smaller things working, how much that would help influence the whole horse and the big picture kind of thing, so.
Sure. Carson, that's a good point. I think that a lot of people, they think the problem just happens at the trot or just happens at the lope or the canter. And it actually, the lack of body position, lack of control at the walk it all happens slower, and you can process it easier for a rider. How do you tell your riders or your participants in your clinic, how do you get better at that? How do you improve with that?
I feel like, for me, I kind of feel like it's just like anything else. When you practice spending some time at those lower speeds and lower levels, you will begin to develop more awareness. And it seems like it's pretty common. You'll kind of notice when somebody's just kind of walking around or not doing anything real big with any kind of speed with a horse, they're not really tuned in and trying to, feel that horse's thoughts and be with him every stride, as Tom Dorrance would say, and stuff like that. But once they start to add a little bit of speed or go out and lope or canter or something like that, well, then, only then does their focus really kick in, and they're trying to feel the horse and keep him balanced and help him. So to me, just spending some more time at, a walk, for example, and just trying to be more aware, you will start to feel like, okay, his right hind leg is kind of evading, stepping underneath him. Let me put that back under there. His attention is kind of off to the left, where my intent is maybe straight ahead or off to the right. So then you start to play with his attention span a little bit and kind of teach him how to get to where you can direct where his attention goes. And I mean, that could even be done at a standstill. So just spending some time trying to be more aware at things that you previously wouldn't think there was much to be aware of. But if you're not looking for it, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you wouldn't see it in the first place kind of deal,
You brought up a good point on speed work. Merle and I were just talking about this. These riders that go into the speed work find out they have a whole different horse than what they were working with on the walk and trot. What are some of the techniques you like to use before we get into the full speed work?
So probably a really good one that I feel like has helped a lot of people is you can get a horse to where, how normally it's kind of a feeling like we're allowing them to go and causing them to slow down or stop or rate back or whatever. You can kind of reverse that to where they're always kind of looking to slow down and come down to a standstill, to where you have to actively ride them just a little bit to keep them going. And not that it should weigh a whole lot, but you can get them to where, with the rhythm of your body kind of actively riding forward, you're almost telling him, take another step, now another one, now another one, now another one. And then when you kind of quit riding and turn off, he'll get to where he interprets that as, oh, he's no longer asking me to move. And the result is they'll kind of just shut off. And if you can kind of make it where it's their idea to want to just come down, and that seems like a good deal for them, then they'll kind of be looking for that. So I would say, above taking a hold of one or pulling them into the ground or anything like that, if you can get the desire in the horse to where he's wanting to hunt for that stop and kind of always looking to do that as a really good deal for him. If that's your foundation, that's going to help a ton. And then it's really counterintuitive, but I believe Ray Hunt talked about this to a degree. But when you think about a horse being what they are, meaning the ability to freely move their feet, is what keeps their self-preservation satisfied. So if you can become the kind of person that can convince a horse that your purpose in life is to improve and enhance their movement and their ability to move, not to hinder their ability to move, it will really allow that self-preservation to kind of let down, and it makes it a lot easier for that horse to be able to kind of give himself to you, if that makes sense.
Sure. Now, and my background, Carson, is in Western pleasure horses. That's how I started as a kid, and I still enjoy that class. I know a lot of people don't anymore, but in my world, we call that rate or stay. Is that kind of what you're alluding to, like pushing the horse and rather than holding the horse back?
Yeah, just getting them to where you're kind of trying to have a conscious awareness of, okay, anytime I'm wanting this horse to move, I need to make sure that I have a active seat and my body has some activity and life in it. Because if that is not there, if you don't have a little bit of life through your whole body, your hips, your seat, your calves and your shoulders and your hands, well, you have nothing to go to when you want to turn yourself off to allow that horse to feel that you just shut down and basically quit asking him to keep moving forward or taking steps. So a lot of it too is just trying to help people get to where, hey, if you're wanting your horse to trot, make sure that you are actively riding him and not just kind of up there like a wet sack of potatoes, having him drag you around, So if that's not there as well, if you're always basically lifeless in your body and your rhythm, well, then you can't really turn yourself off and allow your horse to feel that, because you were never up and alive in the first place. So actively riding forward when you're wanting to go, you'll kind of notice anytime you watch somebody ride, if they're kind of dead in their life and their body and they're not really actively riding that horse, they always are wondering about, how do I get him better at rating or slowing down, and making it his idea to do that, where he's not needing 35 pounds of pull in a Rutledge Roper to think about slowing down a little bit.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we are talking to the famous, from Florida, Carson James, and with an extensive background in equine training. Carson, we got to talk to you about respect, and you talked about this as a bad word. Kind of dive into this for us. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. So if you kind of look around in the equestrian world, you'll kind of notice that people that really are passionate, and usually people that make a living at training horses, and they have worked hard enough at it to kind of develop somewhat of a knack for it, you'll notice those people can consistently turn out nice horses. And it's pretty rare to hear somebody that can really make some nice horses talk real bad about any of those horses. Now, sure, they may say things like, oh yeah, this one gets a little heavy on the legs sometimes, but he's getting it figured out, he's trying. Or yeah, sometimes he gets a little hot, but he's getting to where he can kind of separate the difference. And they may talk like that, but you don't hear a lot of, well, this horse is just a stubborn son of a gun who wants to do everything except for what I want him to do, and he's got my number. Generally, when you hear that kind of talk, that way of logic and thinking consistently turns out horses that they kind of look like that person is exactly right. So I feel like a lot of it, a horse is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they will become what you think they are. So if you kind of have thoughts in your head of where, oh, he's trying to take advantage of me every second he gets, well, you'll probably find whatever you're looking for. But when it's all said and done, what you will find is the instant that any horse realizes what the best deal is, and he gets sure about that, he will take that route every single time. So one thing we talk about, generally when people say that horse has got your number, they mean that in a negative way. But what I'm trying to help people see is you want him to feel like he won. You don't want the kind of relationship with your horse where he feels like he has to come out the loser of the competition to be okay in life. So you want them to get your number. You want them to always feel like they're winning with every little try that they give you, everything they try to do. But through timing and experience and knowing when to add an extra 3 pounds of pressure and then when to tune it back down to 1/8 of an ounce or maybe a pressure that's almost immeasurable, through that series of your timing, you will teach that horse that the way he wins is by thinking your thoughts and doing what you were thinking. So a lot of times let's say somebody's asking a horse to lunge. Maybe they hold out their arm, or this is just a simple example, but they hold out their arm. The first few times, nothing happens. So maybe they come in with a flag or do something to get him to move over a little bit in his front end. Well, after a few of those, they start to raise that arm, and maybe he doesn't even move his front end to kind of turn away and start lunging, but maybe his ear kind of rolls and he kind of looks in the direction that they had in mind, and we'll say, hey, did you see where he kind of borderline was thinking your thoughts right there? So what you'll find is when a horse knows what the path of least resistance is, they'll take it all the time. And a lot of times people say, well, that's not true, because 5 years ago at a barrel race, I saw a horse to where he went in the alleyway and started rearing up and flipped over backwards instead of just going out there and running the barrel pattern. But see, in that horse's mind, that was the best thing that he could do, because he had been brought along and accidentally taught that, hey, buddy, the minute you go up this alleyway, you're going to get spurred and whipped as hard as I can to, make the best time or whatever. So they had set it up to where in that horse's mind, doing what he did in that alleyway was actually more satisfying to his self-preservation than the mental stress and torment of doing that barrel pattern. I'm not saying that's every barrel horse, but I'm saying you can see some horses doing that in any performance situation, really. They can get like that if the timing and the understanding and all that isn't there, but they,
Exactly. Yeah, it's muscle memory you have going into it. Everyone, we're talking to Carson James Horsemanship. Carson, I know that you are traveling. You're heading over to California. People can get a hold of you at carsonjameshorsemanship.com. And we want to thank you for doing everything you're doing with the horse industry. And more importantly, this has been really great to get you on board. But as always, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you have a great podcast. It's very relaxed. I love it. And keep that going.
Oh, thank you very much. And I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you, Carson. And we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
At Heritage Tractor, we're driven by more than just the nuts and bolts of our John Deere tractors. We're fueled by a commitment to you. It's about tracking down that elusive part, providing industry-leading equipment that won't break the bank, and ensuring your equipment is up and running. Because your livelihood depends on it, our livelihood depends on it. The three little words we live by, here for you, aren't just words. They're a promise. Heritage Tractor, here for you, here for a lifetime.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
Hey, it's Alex Gold from Max Motors in Belton with their huge year-end heavy-duty sale. Every new 2024 Ram 2500 in stock is 20% off MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee up to $13,000 off MSRP. Stock number S240367. Must finance with dealer lender. Offer expires 1/2/25. And if you're looking for the max trade-in values in the Midwest, it's Max Motors, just a short drive to Belton. Max Motors, the easiest place to buy a car, maxmotors.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. Appreciate you joining us as we talk all about the equine industry and have professionals coming our way. And you know what, Merle, we know how important these veterinarian services can be.
Oh, yes. I mean, and our next guest is a one-stop shop almost, Ed.
And she is. Coming all the way from Missouri, we have KF Equine Services, Callie Kohler at Kohler Veterinarian Services, and she improves animal health, quality of life, and performance with chiropractic care, lameness evaluations, and also corrective shoeing. I'd like to welcome aboard Callie. Callie, thank you for joining Better Horses.
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're doing a lot of things with horses and kind of like diving into it. And let's unpack this. You're doing veterinarian services and you're also doing very special performance and corrective work along with laser therapy. So you have Keeler Veterinarian Services and KF Equine?
Correct. We started with the Keeler Veterinary Services just doing mostly ambulatory, kind of going to people's houses, getting them set up for stuff they can do at home, and turned into there was a lot of things from the rehab perspective that they really just couldn't get done on site at home, and they really needed someone to do it for them for the first 30 to 60 days. So that's kind of where KF Equine came from. We decided to go ahead and build a whole facility to keep horses on site and kind of jumpstart that rehab for them.
So then you expanded your team, and I think you're in mid-Missouri, so let's kind of put that in perspective. So what kind of services do you have when it comes to chiropractic care and laser surgery and corrective shoeing?
Sure. So we have the chiropractic. We just recently added acupuncture, so we've got that now too. We've got the Class 4 laser that works really well for soft tissue injuries and wound care. And then we have a water treadmill here, so we can do the kind of get them exercising much faster with their injuries. The horses that are on stall rest, they can do the water treadmill instead of just the basic hand walking. And then we have a couple of different corrective shoers that come in, and we do the x-rays with that kind of x-ray guided corrective shoeing. And then we do some of the traditional, I do the lameness workups. We have an ultrasound and and an x-ray. And so we can do kind of the start to finish if we need to. We've started to add some of the orthobiologics to do the kind of regenerative joint work. So the PRP, IRAP, things like that. On my wish list is Shockwave. We haven't added that yet, but hopefully we'll add a Shockwave in the next couple of years. But kind of just slowly each year adding another service to kind of our repertoire.
So if I'm a listener, and let's focus in on the rehabilitation work, I hear a lot of great things with horses, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be spending a lot of money here. Is this really effective? Does this really help? And let's really concentrate on that lameness evaluations that you always do.
Yeah. So biggest thing is trying to catch them as quickly as we can, right? So if as soon as they go lame, I'd like to see them. I don't want to wait a month or two and just kind of try the traditional stall rest and see how they do. I'd like to see them right away so we can figure out, is something torn? Is it just inflamed? So that we can get a plan going. Most of my soft tissue injuries, traditionally we told people, if they have a deep digital flexor tendon tear or suspensory tear, you're looking at 8-9 months before they can even be in a small paddock and start walking again. And, most of these tears that come through now, we're seeing, 60 to 90 days, they're on the treadmill, they're doing the work, they're getting back to getting again, so that at the 6-month mark, they're ready to be ridden, not ready to be rehabbed. So we're cutting their rehab in half, essentially.
So is your concentration on high performance horses, or are we talking your easy rider and you're just your casual amateur rider, or are you taking both sides?
We do both, yeah. So about half my horses in the barn right now are performance horses, and the other half are trail horses that families just, they love the horse, they love their personality, they're really nice horses to ride, and they don't really necessarily want to give up on them. So we definitely have both in the barn.
So Callie, you've been in the business for quite a long time, so let's just kind of segue that, just do a kind of a gut check for everybody in mid-Missouri. Biosecurity, are you seeing any threats out there for all those people that are taking their horses and they're showing around the Midwest? And what are you seeing out there from a veterinarian standpoint?
Sure, yeah. We, knock on wood, haven't had any come through the barn yet as far as infectious diseases. I do warn all of my clients, when you're going to shows and things, the biggest thing is not sharing buckets, not sharing hay, feed. Don't touch someone else's horse and then touch your horse. And I tell people, I know it sounds harsh, but don't let other people touch your horses unnecessarily. People like to walk around and, the pretty pony, and they're touching one horse and then the next and then the next. And a lot of people don't understand that just because the horse doesn't look outwardly sick yet doesn't mean that they're not already infectious. So, we've got a short window to quarantine these guys if they are sick. So I tell people, just advocate for your horse and really kind of keep them as separated as you can.
It's a really good tip, because everybody loves to pet horses, especially when you go into a barn with about, 2,400 exhibitors. I can imagine how many people are petting every other horse that they're walking through. So that's kind of a common thing that we do every day.
Yeah. And I get a lot of that if someone's horse does get sick, they go, well, I didn't let, I didn't share water. I didn't touch other people's horses. And I say, okay, but you were in a barn full of 200. How many spectators were there just walking through, touching everybody's ponies because they're pretty? I have a couple clients that will put a sign on their stall that says, please do not touch. This is a performance horse. And, you feel like you're being uppity and acting better than them, but really you're just advocating for the safety of your animal, and the animal's at home, because you get home and your horse doesn't look sick either, but you probably brought something home if you weren't careful.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And you're right. It does look like an attitude, but it's really just being very good safety measures around the barn itself.
Right.
So, Callie, let's talk about some of the topics that I hear a lot of veterinarians going through. Is there's not enough young people coming up in the equine veterinarian services. And what is it about, from an economic standpoint? You're in mid-Missouri. Granted, it's a very good state to be in the equine industry. I get that. But how's the business going from an economic perspective? And what can you tell our listening audience, or those thinking about getting into the equine industry, any coaching techniques that you may be able to add?
Yeah. So this side of the country, so, I spend a lot of time on the East Coast. It's just equine management's very different. So people have to get used to spending the money preventatively rather than kind of from a reactive side. After they're already injured or after something's gone wrong. So it's a lot of just education in this area. Once my clients know and understand the preventative side and how much they don't have to spend long term if we prevent something from happening, they're much more apt to call me as soon as something changes or as soon as they feel like something just isn't quite right. And so the business, as we've educated people, the business has kind of blossomed in the last 6 months. It was pretty slow going at first. And then once word got out and people realized that I was fine with them if they just wanted to call and ask questions, we don't necessarily, if you just have kind of generalized, I don't know what to do here. Should I call the vet at this point? One of us always has the phone. We're happy to talk. That's when things kind of expanded. And that's kind of the thing I try to tell the young vets coming out that call and ask me, I don't necessarily want to start my own business, but I don't know how to get into equine, or I don't know how to expand in the business that I'm in at a facility. How do I get more clients coming to me instead? And I tell them it's just talking to them. It's just education. They don't know what they don't know. And once they do know it, they're pretty hyper vigilant about it.
I think the next issue that everybody seems to be bringing up, that seems to be a lot of discussion points, is should you lunge a horse? Should you not lunge a horse? On on those long lines that everybody has, causing bow tending. What are you seeing from a perspective of corrective shoeing and things of that sort?
Yeah, if the feet are wrong and they're lunging incorrectly, meaning it's either too tight of a circle or the horse is going too fast before it's ready, I definitely see a lot of tendon issues. Deep sand, if a horse is not fit and they're in deep sand, they really struggle and they pull things. And also club-footed horses. I've got club-footed horses that they're just not fit and the tendons can't take that wear and tear if they're working them too hard. So I love lunging. I love long lining when done correctly. That's the hardest part, though, is that fine line of teaching the horse how to do it correctly and also teaching the owner at the same time. If the horse doesn't know how to do it and the owner's really clumsy too, they both really struggle and they get frustrated. So that is another thing sometimes we end up doing with these horses that are here, is just teaching the horse how to lunge correctly so that the owner doesn't feel like they're set up for failure when they get home.
That's a perfect answer and a great horse tip that we can wrap up with. Dr. Callie Keeler, I want to tell you, thank you very much for joining us here on Better Horses. We'd love to have you back. I would love to also get you a segment on the Better Horses TV show and have them all take a look at you and look at your business. And I think we appreciate everything you're doing with the equine industry.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's Dr. Callie Keeler at the Veterinarian Services in mid-Missouri.
And I really appreciate everybody coming on board here with this radio show. And you know what, Merle, having all these three very talented horsemen coming on, Christy Lee Smith, Carson James, and Callie Kohler, really bringing a lot to the table.
Yes, we've learned a lot this hour, hadn't we?
It's been a great show, and I appreciate you joining us. But if you had a chance to miss this show, or if you want to pick up this show again, I want everybody to invite them to look over our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just check out Better Horses.
Ed, it's no secret. The Better Horses Winter Edition is out. It is featuring a stallion called Fully Furnished on the front. So be sure to look in there for that. And there's a lot of great tips for horses and riders alike.
And you can subscribe by just checking out betterhorses.com. And as always, check out our TV show, also on RFD, the Cowboy Channel, and streaming on Equus TV.
Ed, I'd like to give a special thanks to our team behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, our television producer, Kelly Creech, and naturally, all of our great sponsors.
Absolutely. And we'd like to thank all our listeners. Merle, thank you for joining us on a remote base. And as always, that wraps it up for this week. And we want all of you to be good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride to the ranch.